The 2020 Classic Tetris World Championships are officially happening, and, well, they're going to be a little different this year since they'll be happening online. The plans were released last Tuesday and generated a lot of discussion from the players and the community. So a few days ago, I sat down virtually with Adam Cornelius and Vince Clemente, two of the head organizers, to discuss some of the decisions they made and if they'll be incorporating any of the feedback. If you want to know about a specific topic, I'll have a table of contents in the description. So I guess general introduction for anybody on the online viewership or audience who isn't as familiar with who you are. Who are you and what has been your role in the tournament? Adam?
Well, it all started in 2010, of course, when I directed the movie Ecstasy of Order, and ended up working with Robin Mihara and then later Vince to create the tournament, and then Vince down in LA more and more became the real engine behind the tournament. We tried to have more clear roles as things have evolved. Really only Trey is specifically the tech director. You know, he does the programming, he is in charge of the video technology. I won't speak for Vince, but I just do whatever it takes to make it happen. So yeah, I'm the tournament producer and organizer.
Awesome. So Vince, how would you describe what you do?
I started back in 2010, and then my role's been kind of like director or producer of the tournament since then. So I've been, that's been my role for, this will be the 11th time. So I also do, whatever it takes, like Adam said. And, I do a lot of the graphics, a lot of the organizing, a lot of sponsorship stuff. So that's been kind of my role. But yeah, me and Adam kind of just do a lot of like everything together, and Trey as well. So Trey, all three of us kind of make all these decisions together. So it's a nice little trifecta.
Awesome.
Yeah, and we have sort of gravitated towards, Vince is a graphic designer, I'm a video producer. So, when we've had live tournaments, I've often been in charge of the camera crew. So we certainly gravitate towards our skill sets, but sometimes you got to plug a hole and put out a fire or get something done, and we just do whatever it takes.
So I guess 2020, it's been a crazy year. So what was the journey in figuring out how to do CTWC this year? Kind of from the moment PRGE got canceled to now, like what were some of the biggest hurdles you had to overcome or puzzle pieces you had to put together?
Well, I can start by just telling the story of, obviously we all probably have our own stories from March of 2020. I mean, it was a big game changer in so many industries. Obviously, CTWC falls within the event industry, so right away, PRGE canceled. I can't remember exactly when, but it was pretty early on. And the interesting thing is we got approached by a lot of other people who had expos, and a lot of people were like, oh, we're going to save CTWC. And of course, everyone was quickly realizing that PRGE was really a step ahead of the game and that all these expos were going to end up canceling. So at some point, we were thinking, well, maybe part of the tournament can be live. Maybe it could be in a private studio without an audience. And, all these ideas, I mean, you don't even know how many ideas we went through and how many phone calls we had. And it was just, we threw everything at the wall to see what would stick. So this announcement we made earlier this week was the culmination of all that.
Yeah, I mean, we decided basically just to go online, because there's no way that we're going to have a live tournament or get 8 people somewhere, or, like one person of the 8 couldn't fly due to some kind of travel restriction or something. So it just makes sense to go online. And I think it's an exciting problem for us to solve, to make, better online tournaments and put our resources towards this. So I'm excited to see what happens out of all of this, just to, make our tournament better and, the Tetris community better.
So the first step, qualifying, how is that going to work this year? What are the procedures?
So the idea is you'll just do it online, kind of like CTM does already, but it'll be like a week-long period where, during that week, you have to go on, say what time you're going on, and, record for 2 hours, and that's your try. And then we're going to try and make days where, like, say a Saturday or something like that, where we're like, hey, try and stream at, say, 4 p.m., just for an example. Just to get like a big amount of people online, and possibly do some kind of restream of that on our CTWC channel. But yeah, there'll be a week. So it's kind of like, whenever you have time to do it, or, you play your best, after in the morning after coffee, like Ben Mullen or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think an important distinction to make regarding our announcement earlier this week is that was the announcement of the format and schedule. And a lot of the sort of fine print rules we really hadn't determined yet. So some of these procedures of exactly what we're going to do to avoid any potential for cheating, or, how are our refs going to review, or, are they going to review live, or is it going to be reviewed after the fact? We haven't completely figured all that out. We just wanted people to basically know what was happening. One thing I want to add is we did see some of the feedback on the CTM Discord, as well as on Twitter and on Facebook. And we already have made a few tweaks based on that. One of which is we are expanding the qualifying time to 2 hours. And we thought that made a lot of sense. And that was some really good feedback. And another important thing is we had mentioned the use of game genies in the announcement. And we've decided to actually go back to the original CTWC qualifying rule, which is multiple max out rule. And that was some really compelling arguments made by Jake and a few others that if you're shooting for a 1.2 or a 1.3, that's mostly luck based. And whereas the really top players can pretty much guarantee multiple max outs, so it's more fair. Or I should just say it's less luck based. So I really thought that was good feedback. And you have to bear with us. None of us can hardly max out at all, so we don't know what it's like to score 1.2. So we didn't really know.
Yeah.
But we love the game theory stuff and deep diving on all that, and we're listening, especially when it comes to that stuff. So that I thought that was a really compelling argument, and so we changed that right away. So we're going back to the CTWC rule for qualifying max outs.
Yeah, Jake had shared with me, he wrote a persuasive essay, and he was really happy that his English class at school had come in helpful for a real-life application for him.
That's great.
Well, I'm glad he did that, but I understood what he was saying right away, and I'm really sensitive to those issues. And I think that kind of segues to another piece, David, if you don't mind, which is probably the biggest challenge for this tournament was that we don't have the resources to give people the same pieces for the first section. And so we talked about that for hours and hours and hours. And as you know, back in as recently as 2015, we were still running CTWC without giving players the same RNG. And we are in the cartridge era starting in 2016. So it was kind of painful to go back. But what we decided was, in order to spread out that variance, we have to do all best of 5, and we have to do some type of double elimination element. And what we realized is that when you do a double elimination bracket, the bracket just gets, it doubles in size. And so then the idea of having 128 players in the bracket or something like that was just it was gigantic with double elimination. So that's why we had to kind of find a sweet spot, and that turned out to be 64 for the main event. So that was a really tough decision, but I think what we ended up with is a tournament where much less sudden death than even a same piece at CTWC, because we see players in the best 2 out of 3 format with no double elimination go out randomly, and it can be a really brutal experience. So we like to think that this new format will be a much better shot for everyone that does make the bracket.
And it's great because this year we have time. There's infinite time rather than, being subjected to the expo open and close and 3 days, and so that's exciting.
Yeah, so I guess regarding the schedule, when it initially came out, so there's going to be 8 different sections of the group of 64 that are going to play on separate days. There was initially some concern from some players that it might be during their school midterms, if it's on a Thursday or Friday, or it might conflict with their work. Has there been any adjustment to the schedule?
Yes, I mean, we're planning to change that and do 2 of the 8 brackets per day, Saturday, Sunday, for the same 2 weekends. All these changes that we're going to make are going to be announced next week. We're kind of we don't want to do too many rounds of changes or just jump in and change one thing. So it's just going to be there'll be another announcement next week on some of these changes. Don't buy a Game Genie. Don't go buy one unless you want one.
Yeah, well, yeah, Game Genie is cheap and it's good to have, but don't sweat it. The thing is that we initially were like, let's just do one bracket per day, and that way all our resources can go towards that one bracket. We're spread a little more thin, but we do have Classic Tetris 2 is already established. So we decided, because scheduling is so tough for everyone, whether you're a student or whatever, that it'd be better to just do 2 per day on 2 separate weekends. So there'll be 2 on a Saturday, 2 on a Sunday, and then a week later there'll be 2 on a Saturday and 2 on a Sunday.
Awesome. And then some players had also wondered why there was a several-week gap in between sort of the earlier stages and the final 8 for the main event. Is there any reason for that?
The biggest reason is because we have to ship out the cartridges. So that was our big plan, was in the top 8, there would be all the same pieces, just like a real CTWC. If we're shipping a cartridge to, a faraway country, we wanted to leave ourselves plenty of time to sort that out and to make sure that went well. And then also to make sure that we can do individual testing with those players, because we are going to try to do our best to help them get their stream level up. For those players that make the top 8 that maybe haven't put a lot of effort into their stream, we are going to go so far as to ship along with the cartridge, ship them a nice webcam, ship them a little light, do whatever we need to do to get their level up. And that's another thing where that's going to be some fine print stuff that we haven't worked out yet, but that's our hope.
We're also going to be, all the videos that are shot during that time, the first 8 brackets will be then rolled out during that time, is the hope, to kind of build hype up to the top 8 and, bring in more fans, have way more hype, and just have a bigger audience when the top 8 come around. So there'll be a lot of time, press coverage and backstories and all this of everyone. So we think it's kind of a master plan this year. We've never had this chance to take the time, and it's kind of more like a NFL season or CTWC season, where we have, ongoing stuff rather than just, if you missed it that one day, then that's it,
Quaid actually reacted to the schedule on stream last night. He compared it to March Madness. He was like, oh my gosh, it's a whole month. Wow.
It lasts until December 6th, over a month. You gotta play for a month, bro.
A month? I used to just be able to lose in 2 days. Wow.
This is like a
New
tutorial.
Yeah, this is like an NCAA basketball tournament.
Right.
Except that's single elimination. But still, it's like there's a lot going on here.
It's intense, dude.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Well, and not to mention that this is a good segue to one of our other announcements, which is that we're working really hard to make sure we can add, much like CTM has the futures and the community, we're looking to add a semi-pro bracket, which would be the 32 players that just missed the top 64. We're going to try to get a good prize and have a bracket for that group as well. So we'll get 96 people in a bracket. And that 32 semi-pro bracket will probably take place somewhere in that November time span. So, and additionally, if we do decide to do any side events, Invisible, Speedrun, Dr. Mario, so on and so forth, which we haven't committed to yet, but if we do decide to do some stuff like that, there'll be that in that gap there. So
Nice. So if you enter, there'll be even more of a chance that you'll make some bracket and get to play in some capacity. So the entry fee this year is $50. It had raised some strong reactions on the Discord and other places, mainly due to confusion over what the expenses would be this year. Assuming that, hey, maybe things are a lot lower budget since it's online and you don't have an in-person venue. So is there anything you can add detail on what perhaps the entry fee and other expenses will go towards?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to say that one mistake that we made, I mean, we basically released a rough outline of a tournament without a lot of specific details. In other words, if you think about it, you're putting a product on the market and you're putting a price on it, and you're not really telling people all the information about it. So it sort of makes sense that people are critical, and that was a mistake on our part. We should have waited to put a price on it when we had more information to share. So I understand, and people's criticism is warranted in that, if you don't know what a product is, then the price might seem too high, right? Our commitment to the players and to the audience is that this tournament will be worth every penny of that entry fee for everyone who participates. So that's the goal. And part of that is that, well, I'll let you finish, Vince. I think we're ready to make kind of a soft announcement on the prize pool.
Absolutely. I mean, we're definitely going to have at least $10,000 in prize money. It'll be similar payouts to last year. That's what we're going to start at and, hope for. And we believe we can do that. So at the very least, it'll be $10,000.
Yeah, and that was a big leap last year, because I think our biggest prize pool previous to that was quite a bit less. So we've always had, it's been a challenge to get more and more solid prize pools, but I think that's a big piece of the puzzle of becoming a major esport, is to have a significant prize pool that helps bring excitement, that helps bring in more players, that helps create press, and it helps raise the stakes and make the event more entertaining and more exciting. So that's something we're really committed to. We didn't want to announce the prize pool because, frankly, we hope it'll be even higher. So we're not going to make an official announcement on the prize pool, but to kind of our fans and the players, we want to commit to a minimum of the $10,000 that we got last year, which helps bring into focus the risk reward of entering the tournament. If you make the bracket, you have a really good chance of getting into some prize money because we're going to pay out at least 16 spots.
I mean, perfect world, I would love, everyone to get paid that made it into the tournament, kind of like a NASCAR or golf situation where, even down to the 64th player, gets taken care of. So that's the dream. We're hoping to get there one day. It's just like, it just takes a lot. It takes a lot of sponsorship, takes a lot of, other things going on to make us get there. I mean, but we definitely want to make sure the players get paid, and this grows and grows and grows. And if we had like $1 million prize one year, that would be something that we'd be really excited about.
Yeah. So if anybody part of a company is watching and they want to reach out to you to help make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the people might notice that we've done pretty flat. Like last year's prize structure was pretty flat, meaning that there was more money spread out among more players rather than have the top prize be some grandiose number that's way more than everyone else. We didn't want it to be a winner take all. We want it to be and to me, that's the community oriented aspect, is that everyone should be rewarded for the work they've put in to become a great player. So we're not there yet, but every year we're striving to get to where more and more players are taken care of. And it, like I said, also makes every level you jump up, whether you get to the top 16 or the top 8 or the top 4, it just adds to that excitement and the drama. So I think it's just good for the tournament in every way, shape, and form.
I think for us, like if the last player in the tournament got at least got enough money to cover his or her flight out there, and got some extra money and was happy about that, I think that would be a success. That would be success number 1 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a long-term goal for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I guess in addition to entering the tournament, in addition to the fee, there's also the need for a lot of players to get all original equipment, which is something they haven't necessarily needed for other online tournaments up to this point. And perhaps I'm part of the problem in that regard, in that I kind of recommended in my gear video for people to get clone consoles because they were cheaper in most cases. But is there any specific reason why people really need to have an original NES and a lot of these other equipment requirements?
Yeah, I think so what I do know is that everdrives are out. We feel it's way too easy to cheat with an everdrive.
Or Power Pack, yeah.
Or Power Pack, everdrive, any of those things. And then obviously emulators are out. So we are completely firm and we're just moving on from that discussion because of cheating problems. However, the Retron Retron sort of aftermarket consoles, I feel like I'm ready to do another round of research on that and make sure before I rule that out. So we're going to try to make our final decision on that next week. I'm personally not ready to decide. However, we realize we have to decide ASAP so people know what they need to do. So just realize we're fully committed to figuring that out as soon as possible.
I think one of the things that you said when we were talking yesterday, Adam, was talking about how I think it's the Retron or one of them. It uses an emulator program to run, and you said it felt like different than the actual game itself. So it's kind of like a detriment to the player if they use that. Like it's a disadvantage. So I think it'd be wise for us to say that it's better for you to use an NES because that's we know that works perfect.
Yes, in my opinion, I've played NES Tetris on a Retron and it felt a little off. Maybe it was all in my head, but I definitely feel, if anything, it's a disadvantage to the player. So we also don't really know if our special cartridges, tournament cartridges, how they'll interact with the Retron. So we also would need to test that before we make the decision. So we're not slamming the door on that at this point, but we need to do a little more research. And if anyone's an expert on Retrons and wants to make a case for them or make a case against them based on their expertise, please contact us in Discord. We'd love to hear about that. Just the more information we have on that topic, the better. So,
yeah. So in years past, or I guess recently in the past couple years, there had popped up a bunch of regional qualifiers where players had the opportunity to win essentially a compensated trip to the World Championships to cover like the plane and airfare. Are there any potential avenues where players who perhaps don't have the financial ability to get the gear, or it's really hard for them to get the gear in the location of the world they're in, to basically have that opportunity to perhaps get sponsored or compensated for entering the tournament?
I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're willing to help whoever needs help. Either trying to hook them up with somebody that who maybe we know, or a company we know that might want to sponsor them individually, or encourage them to do that. Reach out to companies to see if they want to get sponsored on their own end. But yeah, we're willing to help find equipment for people. And we realize that NTSC TVs around the world aren't plentiful in PAL regions, so it's a bit of an issue, and I understand that, or we understand that.
Yeah, and that's true regarding the entry fee. I'm gonna confess that's not something I considered. Obviously, being here in the U.S., $50 barely gets you a dinner and a movie anymore. But I realized that $1 is worth a lot more in other countries. So we are understanding of that. And I think what Vince said, like, we know everyone in the retro collecting scene, and we are going to try to connect people as much as possible with potential, call it what you will, a sponsor or a benefactor, to help people get gear or whatever the case may be. And we might even look at some avenues of maybe retroactively rewarding certain players an entry fee, but we need to look at that because that was not part of our original idea. But some people have mentioned that, and I thought that was a great idea. So we're open, and we definitely we don't want finances to be a major hurdle for people that want to play. So we're gonna just stay open and stay in communication with everyone for sure.
As far as the tournament itself goes, are there any plans in place that you're able to share at this time of if traditional CTWC commentators will be involved, or if there are any new commentators or partnerships or involvements with other Tetris tournaments that have sprung up and become popular in the online scene?
Yeah, we're definitely, going to have the main core crew again if they want to be a part of it. And also, some of the new stars of commentating that have popped up. Absolutely. I mean, I'm a fan of, everyone that's playing Tetris. So if you have a favorite commentator or you have suggestions, we're we're open to all that. I know Kingsman. Everyone loves the Kingsman, so definitely gotta see if he's available.
Yeah, we're gonna reach out. We're gonna reach out to some of the new commentators, but our core group is still gonna have first dibs. But there's so many brackets now, and the fact that we're now switching to having 2 brackets a day, that spreads us pretty thin. That means we have to have 4 commentators all 4 days, not to mention refs, score takers, the restreamer. We've got a pretty big staff on each and every day, so that should make room to possibly slot in some of the new commentators that haven't commentated an official CTWC event. We shall see. We haven't staffed up yet, but we have sort of made some preliminary contacts. We'll even have Arda will be back to do some post-game interviews. So in many ways, people say, well, geez, it won't be a real life CTWC, but well, hey, if you have the commentators you're familiar with, Chris Tang's there, and then after your match is over, Arda's interviewing you. We hope that it's the people that bring the brand and the experience and make it real. Will be the people, I think.
So perhaps the most disastrous thing that could happen, but it's happened unfortunately sometimes in the CTM and other online tournaments, is somebody's internet goes out in the middle of a big match. Is there any idea of what the procedure would be if that were to happen at the CTWC this year?
Well, I think our current plan is that for the first 60, the top 64, the 8 double elimination brackets, we are open to replaying matches. If your internet connection isn't reliable and you can't get it back up and running within an hour or something like that, we'd have to just say, sorry, you forfeit. We're going to have problems with the time zone. So there's going to be some people that woke up really early, or some people who are being forced to stay up really late. So there's only so much we can do for a person if their internet goes down. What I'd suggest is if you're a top contender, I would have a backup setup. I know that sounds like a lot, but if you're someone who really thinks you're a top 8 contender, I'd get a buddy and I'd say, your Twitch stream is ready to go, and I'll get my mom to drive me there, or I'll rush over to your house and play at your house. And I think that's the safe, because that's only so much we can do remotely. It's kind of on the player to create their own fail-safe system. So little suggestion, we're going to be doing the same. We're going to have backup restreamers ready at all times for that same thing if it happens on the producing end. So regarding the top 8, that's the big show. That's where for us everything's on the line. So we are going to have bandwidth requirements. I might as well announce right here that if need be, if you have sort of spotty bandwidth and you're in the top 8, we're going to work with you to try to get that right. You won't be allowed to participate in the top 8 if you have spotty bandwidth. So you'll have to find an alternative location to stream from if that's the case. So I don't mind telling people that right now. It's going to be all options explored to get people at a high level for the top 8 stream. But at that point, you'll be deep in the prize money, and hopefully we'll get players to work with us on that. So this tournament is incredibly difficult to figure out. And the reason is because there's so many conflicting things you have to worry about. We have to think about sponsors. We have to think about the audience. We have to think about entertaining people and putting on a great show. We have to think about being fair, and we have to think about avoiding cheating. And it just, from the outside looking in, it might seem pretty simple, but once you bring in all these competing factors that all have different needs, it actually becomes extremely complicated. And you have to understand, Trey and Vince and I have been on the phone for probably 20 hours already trying to figure this stuff out. And it's tough to get it perfect. But what we landed on was we wanted the top 8 to resemble an in real life CTWC as much as possible. And so we wanted that to be a single elimination with all the same pieces. But then we said, well, darn it, we have to do double elimination for the rest of the bracket because people don't have the same pieces. And it wouldn't be fair to just throw you in the fire of bad RNG and not give you another chance to rise from the ashes, right? So we came up with this crazy system where, okay, you make the top 8, And now if you lost a game or if you lost a match, well, that is going to put you at the bottom of the seeding. So even if you were the number 1 seed going into the 64, well, let's say that all 7 players went undefeated except you. Well, now you're going down to the 8th seed. So without getting into there's going to be a whole ranking method where the first criteria is, did you or did you not lose a match to determine seeding. So that was the way that we were able to reset the top 8 and go to a single elimination bracket, is with the reseeding formula. So I know that's a little odd, but I hope that we can get that across, and ultimately everyone will be on board with it, because it's the way that we can make the most entertaining tournament and the most fair tournament at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's been our goal in all these years, is to make the most fair tournament. Like, how do we make this fair? You know, we want everyone to feel like it's fair, and we're doing everything we can to do that. I think one other thing we should probably say, Adam, is about like the cameras and why we're enforcing that rule. Do you want to take that one, Adam?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Facecams. Well, that goes back to the original foundation of CTWC. You know, I think it's important to say that CTWC and CTM are totally different organizations and serve completely different purposes. CTM is an online community, and it's amazing, and it's all about being maximum inclusivity and as fun as possible and low stakes. You know, if the whole thing falls apart, you know, there's no problem. CTWC is kind of the polar opposite of that, where it's high stakes. It's a show. It's supposed to be super public. It's supposed to be a official esport. The reason CTWC has no notoriety, and because the reason it has success, is because of the characters, because of the players. Fans root for certain players, and that's because they can see them and they know who they are. So from the standpoint of what we've built, it is about the players being the face of Tetris and being someone that people can relate to. And so as much as we appreciate all the various reasons that someone might want anonymity, it doesn't align with the CTWC project of putting on an awesome show. So Facecams are just part of the show that we want to put on. So we're really committed to that, and that's decision is going to be that's how we're going to go there. So yeah.
So I guess my final question would be, at a moment during the CTM commentary last month, Adam, you mentioned that you're really excited for this year and you think it's going to be the best CTWC ever. What, in your guys' eyes, makes you excited about this being the best CTWC ever?
One thing that's always bothered me a little bit about the early rounds of the traditional CTWC was that it does kind of have a sudden death nature to it, which I think is entertaining. It's really entertaining as a fan, because it's this day, it's this crazy day, Sunday, and it's like, oh, like last year is the best example. Oh my God, Harry lost. Oh my God, Svavar lost. Oh my God, Alex lost. Oh, and then Jonas loses, and people are screaming, and it's insane. Like, that was one of the wildest things I've ever been a part of. And it doesn't have to be upsets, but it's just that sort of flurry of activity, and it's kind of slaps you in the face. And next thing you know, Joseph's holding up the trophy and the day's over, and it just went by like that, you know. So I'm really excited that it's a little more of a slow burn this time. There'll be more narratives that have time to kind of stew a little bit. You know, we'll all see those brackets and get to look forward to them and be like, ooh, I can't wait for next weekend's bracket, because look, oh wow, Joseph and, you know, Corian are in the same bracket. That's awesome, you know, and all these little narratives are going to brew up, and they'll have more time to kind of play out. So, and then imagine all that extra time. You know, Quaid said March Madness, but I think it's a lot more like poker. When you have the World Series of Poker, you used to have the November 9. And I love the November 9 because it's like, oh man, we just fought through this whole battle, but now the real battle is a few months away, and it just creates all this anticipation. So I think from a showmanship perspective, that's all super exciting.
Right, because instead of like a half-hour intermission before the top 8, you've got several weeks intermission.
Yeah, and we can talk about it. People can speculate, and we can also take more time to maybe showcase those individual players. And there's some plans we have possibly to make a highlight reel, for instance. At least we hope to be able to do that, where we do a highlight reel of each of the top 8 players' best plays, and things like that, well, before we had no time. The whole story of the tournament is just unfolding, and we're always just scrambling to keep up. So it's exciting to have that extra time, for sure.
I mean, I think for me, it's always my favorite time of the year is when CTWC rolls around. And I think, like, this year, we're not only, like, I prefer the real life situation, just like everyone else, but this year we're actually, I have this challenge to figure out the online system that we're going to use, and it's going to be bigger and better than before. For, hopefully it blows every online thing away. That would be great. And then, in the future, we can do like a summer event or a mid-year event, like halfway between CTWC and, in the middle there. So I think that's exciting for us, so that we can have that in a mid-season online tournament where, say, people that can't make it across can still participate in that. So reach out to more players, have more fans. And yeah, like everyone else is saying, the CTWC season sounds incredible to me. I think if I was a fan, I would love to watch it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, Vince. If we're saying, is this a good idea or not, we can just ask ourselves in some sense, because no one is more excited to watch this tournament than me. So I feel like we must have made it kind of okay, because I can't wait to see what happens, right?
Well, yeah, I think all the time, I'm like, man, I've been doing this for 11 years now. And, after we did the first one, I was like, that's it, it's over, and then year 2 came around, and all of a sudden I'm still doing this. So it's just like, my little Christmas time of the year. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens and who wins, and seeing new faces and new players, and see how it goes down.
Well, thank you so much to both of you for coming on, and I hope being able to address a lot of the questions and the follow-up things that people in the community were curious about. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how everything goes down this year.
Oh, I wanted to say one more thing, David. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for your channel. It's been a huge boost to our community, and we can't thank you enough. You've done us an honor to put us in your stories. So we can't wait to see all your new videos. So thanks so much for that.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, it's...
Yeah. When I saw myself as a cartoon was, maybe the greatest day of my life,